From these it is clear that neither all good works nor all sins are equal, for counsel is given only for the greater good. Now counsels are given in the divine law concerning poverty, continence, and the like, as was said above. These things then are better than using marriage and possessing temporal things, according to which, however, it is possible to act virtuously, observing the order of reason, as was shown above. Therefore not all acts of virtue are equal. Still, acts receive their appearance from objects. Therefore, the better the object, the more virtuous the act will be according to its species. But the end is better for those things which are towards the end, of which something is so much better, the nearer it is to the end. Therefore, among human acts, that is the best which is immediately brought to the ultimate end, that is, to God. After which, an act is so much better according to its species, in so far as its object is nearer to God. Further, there is good in human actions according as they are regulated by reason. But it happens that some people approach reason more than others, inasmuch as the acts which are of reason itself have more of the good of reason than the acts of the lower powers which reason commands. Therefore, among human acts, some are better than others. Again, the precepts of the law are best fulfilled out of love, as was said above, but it happens to someone else out of greater love to do what needs to be done. Therefore, one act of virtue will be better than another. In addition, if a man's actions are rendered good by virtue, but it happens that the same is more intense in one than in another, it is necessary that one of the human acts be better than another. Again, if the acts of human good are rendered from the virtues, it must be a better act which is of a better virtue. Now it happens that one virtue is better than the other. Suppose magnificence with liberality, and magnanimity with restraint. Therefore one human action will be better than another. Hence it is said in 1 Corinthians 7:38, "He who marries his virgins does well, but he who does not marry does better." From the same reasons also it appears that not all sins are equal, since by one sin one departs more from the end than by another, and the order of reason is more perverted, and greater harm is inflicted on the neighbor. Hence it is said that Ezekiel 16:47, "You made them more wicked in all your ways." By this means the error of some who say that all merits and sins are equal is excluded. That, however, all virtuous acts are equal, seem to have some reason from this, because every virtuous act is from the end of good. Hence, if all good actions have the same end of good, they must all be equally good. And although there is one ultimate end of good, yet the acts which derive goodness from it receive a different degree of goodness. For in these goods which are directed to the ultimate end, there is a difference of degree, according as some are better than others, and are nearer to the ultimate end. Hence, both in his will and in his actions, there will be degrees of goodness, according to the diversity of goods to which the will and its actions are limited, although the ultimate end is the same. Similarly, the fact that all sins are equal seems to have a reason from this, because sin in human actions occurs only because someone passes the rule of reason, and so he transgresses the rule of reason, who departs from reason in a small matter, as he who departs from reason in a great one. It seems, therefore, that the sin is equal, whether it be sinned in a little or in a great way. But this reason seems to be supported by what is done in human judgments. For if a boundary is established for someone that he must not cross, It does not matter to the judge whether he has crossed a great deal or a little, just as it does not matter from where the boxer left the boundaries of the field, whether he advances further. Therefore, since a person has crossed the rule of reason, it does not matter whether he has crossed it in a small or a large way. But if one looks carefully, in all things whose perfection and good consist in a certain commensurability, the more it departs from the due commensurability, the greater will be the evil. Just as health consists in a due balance of fluids, and beauty in the due proportion of the members, truth, however, in the commensuration of the understanding or speech to the matter. Now it is clear that the greater the inequality in the humors, the greater the weakness, and the greater the disorder in the members, the greater the shame. And the more it recedes from the truth, the greater is the falsity. For the falsity of him who esteems 3 to be 5 is not so great as that of him who esteems 3 to be 100. Now the good of virtue consists in a certain commensuration, for it is a mean, according to the due limitation of circumstances, established between opposite vices. But it is not like to transgress virtue, and to transgress the limits set by the judge. For virtue is good in itself, hence to transgress virtue is evil in itself, and therefore it is necessary that the greater the retreat from virtue, the greater the evil. But to transgress this limit set by the judge is not evil in itself, but incidentally, inasmuch as it is prohibited. But in those things which are accidental, it is not necessary that if the simple follows from the simple, and more follows from more, but only in those things which are per se. For it does not follow, if white is musical, that more white is more musical. It follows, however, that if white is a disintegrating sight, that more white must be a more disintegrating sight. Now this is to be noted among the differences between sins, that some are mortal and some are venial. But it is mortal that deprives the soul of spiritual life. Indeed, the reason for his life can be taken from 2 things, according to the similarity of natural life. For the body lives naturally by the fact that it is united to the soul, which is the beginning of life for it. Now the body, vivified by the soul, is moved of itself, but a dead body either remains motionless or is moved only from without. So too is the will of man, when it is joined by a right intention to the ultimate end, which is its object and in a certain way its form, and is alive. And when he clings to God and his neighbor through love, he is moved from an inner principle to act rightly. But with the intention of the ultimate end and love removed, the soul becomes as it were dead, because it is not moved of itself to act rightly. But either he ceases to do them altogether, or he is induced to do them only from the outside, that is, by the fear of punishment. Therefore, whatever sins are opposed to the intention of the ultimate end and to love are mortal. But if after being saved by these, anyone should fail in some right order of reason, it will not be a mortal sin, but a venial one.